You clean the oven. She said, well, I had to occupy myself. I couldn't sort of relax, so I had to do something.
My first command show was the first one that my old mum saw me working. And she came from southeast London, and I was to play the command. And there was a little corner shop there. There were times when there were little corner shops. And she was holding court in the corner shop saying she was going to see the Queen. And the various neighbours, you've got to know just how much the Cockney people loved the royal family then, because they all gave her brooches and things to wear. I said, would you wear that? Because I got that on my wedding day, and would you wear that? We like to think that the Queen had seen that, and would you wear that? And my mother arrived looking like Harrods. And just we saw the show, and my brother Ted said the next day she held court in the corner shop. And they were asking her about the night, and she said, well, the Queen looked very tired, and she thought that she'd had a row with Prince Philip because he was sitting behind her, and how beautiful Anne looked, and etc. And this went on for about an hour, and I said, did you make any mention of the act at all? She said, no, no word.
Thank you.
The thrill of it all for any performer, there's no doubt about it, is the handshake and the little chat.
Her Majesty came backstage afterwards and was absolutely charming and singled me out and spoke to my mother and then spoke to me. And she said something very nice. I mean, I suspect you're going to be a big star one day, or something sweet like that. And you've got a long way to go, and you've got a wonderful career in front of you. And she really chatted for quite a while. And, of course, the next day at school, I suddenly was in with everyone and changed my life, I think.
And afterwards, of course, we were asked round. This time it was Queen Mary that I had the honor to meet, and I was so frightened. I fell over the lady-in-waiting's feet. Well, they were rather large, but I didn't say anything about that.
If you can sort of just react like you're talking to a relation or something, it's fine. If you try to be funny, well, you can sometimes come unstuck.
And at the finish of the show, we all met her, you know. I said, Your Majesty, I'd curtsy, but if I got down, I wouldn't be able to get up. She didn't laugh. I guess she heard that joke before.
I was next to Ron Parry in one particular Royal Command, and Leslie MacDonnell said, this is Ron Parry, and he said, no, how do you do, ma'am? It was very hot out there. She said, I beg your pardon. He said, it was very hot out there. She said, oh, really? Yes, he said, by Jove, he said, and the weather. He said, you know, it's been raining outside all the time. So she said, has it really? He said, oh, I can't tell you. He said, it's been a day. I've rehearsed. He said, I'm absolutely dead tired. And every time, of course, she went to move away, and he kept saying, and I tell you another thing. He said, my wife rears pugs. So she said, oh, he said, how are the corgis? And he went on, and eventually she said, you will excuse me, but I do have to leave, and I have to meet the other people. He said, that's quite all right, ma'am. It's quite all right.
When I was stood in the line-up up the stairs at 2 down, and I was watching out the side of my eye, and next minute, there she was in front of me. This lady I'd only seen in the paper, and I say with great respect, or on a stamp, and there she was in front of me. God.
This one we did in 1962. When we came off, we were very depressed. And we went in the dressing room, which we shared with various stars. And Andy Stewart
Scottish entertainers. He saw we were depressed, and he said, "Oh, well, we should have a drink." He said, and I didn't drink very much in those days. I've rehearsed a bit since then, and we drank, I don't know, perhaps 2 bottles of scotch between the 3 of us, or a bottle and a half. Came the finale. I was legless. I went down, nearly fell in the pit. And then Jack Matthews, who was the stage manager, said, "You've got to meet the Queen now." And I said, "I can't. I've never met her. I'm terrified." I said, "Well, what do you call her?" And he said, "You call her Mum." And I said, "She's not my mother. Don't be ridiculous." And I'm doing this very quickly, but we went through the bar store and we queued up, and I was next to one of the black and white minstrels who was probably not as drunk as me, but just as nervous. And all his makeup was running, and he looked like a zebra, you know, lined white and black lines. And I'm thinking to myself, what do I call her? What do I call her? And I go, "Mum, not Mummy, Mummy, Mummy." And then Lord Delphont, who's here today, he said, "Your Majesty, this is Bernie Winters." And I looked at her and I was terrified. I said, "Hello, Your Worship." I said, and I suppose that's why it took 20 years before I was asked again.
So when we were presented and the lovely Queen Mother came gliding up, she stopped at David Hughes, beautiful Welsh tenor, no longer with us, and she said, "You look very smart." He said, "Thank you, ma'am." "Very smart indeed." "Thank you, ma'am." Now she moves on to me and she said, "You were wonderful." So I'm glowing, and David is not looking quite so happy. "Wonderful," she said. "I really thought you were wonderful." And I said, "Ma'am, I'm very grateful," she said. "I love that song, Maria," and moved on. Now, of course, David had sung Maria.
So when the Queen Mother came up, she had this lovely bouquet of flowers, and I bowed and shook her hand, and as I did that, Emu went shoo, and had all the tops of the flowers in his beak, and she had a bunch of stalks there like that. And she said, "Oh, I think he must be hungry." And she was very pleasant, and she walked on, and Princess Anne, who was behind her, just came up and gave me the flowers. "Here, have them," and walked away.
The only one that gets away with it, of course, is Spike Milligan.
We're all lined up at the end of the show, and Spike had been in it, causing his usual havoc, you know. And at the end of the show, Charles said to him, "Well, we thoroughly enjoyed it." And he said, "Yes." He said, "I thought you did. I've had a word with the wife." He said, and she said it was all right. So he said, "Okay." So as we was going, he said, Charles said to him, "Well, goodbye, Milligan." And Milligan shouted down the corridor after him. He said, "Goodbye, trainee king." Anyone else would have been in the tower.
I think Prince Charles has a genuinely sharp and contemporary sense of humour, and it's great because he enjoys, actually, I think, he enjoys variety. He enjoys a complete spectrum of entertainment, from the grandest opera to quite contemporary comedy, which is I think encouraging for someone who is the heir to the throne.
They adored the time we got the audience standing up and Barry Humphries made a false entrance. And they were watching on a monitor in the little room at Victoria Palace, and I think it was Prince Charles who said, "I did enjoy that. Can I stay here for the rest of the show?"
But please, you've paid enough for your seat. Sit down, use them, darling. Oh.
Excuse me, madam. Madam, may I see your ticket, please?
My ticket? My face is my ticket. Who the dickens are you?
Look, I'm afraid there's been some mistake.
Well, if there's been a mistake, a lot of people have made it tonight. That's all right. This is the Victoria Palace Theatre, isn't it?
Yes, madam, but this box is reserved for royalty.
Well, I am royalty. I'm Australian royalty, aren't I, darling? Haven't I seen you somewhere before? Don't you work in a shop?
I think there'll always be a place in British entertainment for the royal variety show, no no matter who is king or queen or what. I think it's always going to be a tradition that's got to be kept on.
As long as the occasion is there, as long as it remains an occasion, a special occasion, if it's meant to look like any other gala show, then I can't see a future for it. I think they've got to be a little bit out of the ordinary.
Oh, I'm so sad that the Royal Variety shows of recent years haven't carried on what to me was the essential tradition, coming directly in line from music hall through variety.
I'm not sure of the way that entertainment is going so much, because variety as such is quite dated in a sense these days, and even variety when it was in television shows like it used to be in the 60s and 70s a great deal, sort of, you know, the black and white minstrels through Shirley Bassey and shows like that you were very aware of that kind of thing being on television. But now, of course, it's not even really on television. Now virtually every variety style show is really just a glorified chat show. You know, people sit down on sofas and talk to Des O'Connor now instead of, you know, bringing on 40 or 50 dancing girls. And that is a strange move, really. I mean, perhaps it'll be a Royal Variety chat show in the future. I don't know, just a whole lot of, you know, interviewer after interviewer coming on and interviewing personality after personality.
That's a wonderful idea. A royal chat show.
Let's hope not. Let it be a bit of glitter and a special night and star-studded and people from all over the world making it what it's always been, a marvellous show business tribute to the royal family.
Your Majesty, ladies and gentlemen, Miss Gracie Field.
Sally, Sally, don't ever wander away from the alley and me. Sally, Sally, marry me, Sally. I've been singing a man's song all my life, and happy forever I'll be. When the skies are blue, you're beguiling, and when they're gray, you're still smiling, smiling. Come on, everybody. Sally,
strike up the band, 3 cheers, then a shake of the hand, Your Majesty, good evening. Backstage, there are hundreds of stars telling jokes or tuning guitars out there. You can smell the cigars, it's the